All right, everybody. Welcome back to T&K Sports Talk. My name is Kevin.
My name is Thomas.
And tonight, there's a lot to talk about. We got the NBA playoffs still going on. There's a lot of series that just Phoenix with a clean sweep of the Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic. Huge upset there. Was really thinking that Denver was going to put up a lot more of a fight than that. And you got the Hawks and the Sixers tied up 2-2. And that's the same way as the rest of the series outside of Milwaukee and Brooklyn, who Milwaukee completely blew their chance last night. Had the game in the bag, and Kevin Durant put on one of the best performances of his career. But starting with tonight's key matchup, it is a very tight matchup in this series with the 76ers and the Atlanta Hawks. Series tied 2-2. Thomas, how do you think this game is going to go tonight?
Yeah, so Monday night's loss with Philadelphia definitely concerned me a lot with the series. In that first half, I was very excited, about to go up 3-1. I was thinking, we're up by 20 points, up 3-1. All we got to do is win one more. But that second half was definitely very concerning. Now it's tied 2-2. Embiid, it seems like something's definitely going wrong with him. We obviously know about the physical thing with his knee, but definitely seemed like something mental was going on too. And now with the uncertainty of, are we going to get second half Embiid tonight, or if we're going to get normal Embiid? Definitely concerning, but I feel like tonight is definitely a must win for the Sixers. So if we go down 3-2 and we have to win the next two, I think we can still do it, but it definitely concerns me.
Yeah, it would definitely be a lot harder to walk into Atlanta with that Rockets crowd, knowing that Atlanta hasn't been to the conference finals since LeBron's first stint with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Like, just think about that. They haven't been to the conference finals since LeBron James left the Cleveland Cavaliers to go to the Miami Heat. It was LeBron's last year in Cleveland that Atlanta has gone that far. So Atlanta is very hungry. They're led by amazingly talented Trae Young. He's getting on my nerves a little bit. He's on the nerves of everyone pretty much in the Northeast, from the Knicks fans to Sixers fans now. But Trae Young is definitely the reason why the Hawks have made this such a big fight. Is he's such a momentum player, and if he continues that tonight and pulls off an upset, it could be all she wrote for Philly.
Yeah, and Trae Young has made a tremendous impact, definitely on game one and definitely on this last game too. And we've been fairly lucky with him for the series too, because other than game one, he's been pretty cold from beyond the arc shooting threes. I think this last game he kind of figured it out that he doesn't need to score all the points. He can facilitate to his teammates, because I know he finished like, I think 15 or 16 assists in the game. And that definitely made a big impact on us, on them coming back and us losing the game. I think a big reason why we lost that game too was because, like Doc Rivers said, we were playing a lot of hero ball, and we need to definitely pass it more. And if Trae Young continues to facilitate like he did in that second half, and Philly does not, which there's no reason why we shorten Ben Simmons. That's your only thing you can do on offense. You better keep it up. But I think it's going to be a close one tonight. It's definitely going to be a nail biter, and it's definitely going to have a lot of Sixers fans cursing at their TVs.
Cursing at the TVs and cursing at a Trae Young and the Hawks and the refs, of course. You never know how that's going to go.
Yeah.
But you touch on Embiid, and Trae Young even has a shoulder problem. We saw that he was having the heating pad on that shooting shoulder on Monday's game. like switching gears, like getting off of the series, how about all these injuries throughout the NBA, throughout the playoffs, man? I mean, the Phoenix Suns, while advanced, are now without Chris Paul indefinitely due to COVID protocol. And Kawhi Leonard has his knee problems, and like there's so many injuries around the playoffs this year. And LeBron James, like he's going from the playoffs and everything, but he took to Twitter today to say like this was my problem from when the season started, was that there was no off season, there was no training camp leading up to it. We were just thrown in. It could be the type of fatigue that's actually getting to these players now, is that they didn't have the chance to work on their bodies a lot in the off season. You know, a lot of fatigue, a lot of sitting around from the pandemic. You know, a lot of these guys had to resort to home workouts when these are elite level athletes who need to be in the gym, who need to be shooting the basketball as long as they can. And now here they are just running on treadmills, just keeping their body weight at bay. And then all of a sudden they're playing a 72 game regular season and now into the playoffs. So, I mean, a lot of these injuries are getting to these teams now. I mean, 76ers, Clippers, Suns, all teams that have heavy chances of going to the finals, or at least like making some noise in the conference finals they should reach. Not to mention the Nets. They're
Yeah.
riddled with injury all year.
Yeah, I think the shortened off season, like I don't hate agreeing with LeBron, but I think the shortened off season definitely is taking a toll on them. The thing that sucks too is it's not such, like Philly got pretty lucky for the most part because we didn't really have our first significant injury until Danny Green went down. And that's pretty much such, a role player for us. And then we have Embiid with the torn meniscus. Luckily, he's playing through it. And other than that, second half has, played really well. But you look at some of these teams like Kyrie Irving and James Harden both being out for the Nets, and LeBron James banged up and Anthony Davis out for the Lakers, and Chris Paul, and I think with Utah, Mike Conley, I think, is out for tonight's game. And you had Donovan Mitchell miss that one game. It's for the NBA to put on the best possible product out on the floor, they need their superstars to be healthy. And I think what Adam Silver did with having the shortened off season and not as much time for them to rest and recoup their bodies, this was not a smart move in the end run, because yes, these playoffs have been entertaining, and yes, I'm sure they've been getting a ton of views, but it'd be so much better if we actually had these superstars out on the court where they belong.
Yeah, and the big thing is that like these are all like soft tissue injuries. These aren't like bone bruises or breaks or anything like that. These are all players that are like they dunk the ball and they land on the floor and all of a sudden they twist an ankle or they tweak the hamstring and then they're gone for weeks on end. Yeah, because basketball, you need those soft tissues to be as healthy as they can. Because I mean, we saw with James Harden, like he came back last night for the critical game 5, but he wasn't himself. He was rushed back because the Nets couldn't afford to go down 3-2 going into Milwaukee. And James Harden only scored like 6 points, and he did a great job in clutch time defending Giannis from that horrible looking fadeaway jumper in the end. But I mean, James Harden's clearly not himself out there right now. Whoever that doctor is that cleared him clearly took a payout from the team to clear him for the game last night. But like you said it best, like the NBA to succeed in these playoffs, that you got to have these guys out on the floor, and that falls on the NBA, because once COVID was starting to settle down a little bit and the sports were slowly but surely starting to come back, the NBA saw a golden opportunity to start up the NBA right around Christmas time. And that was without any training camp, without any organized team workouts. And it took its toll on the players, because that entire year from the bubble to the time that they would play again, that was a lot of sitting at home and not being able to do anything, because they had to be eligible to come back. They had to get a negative COVID test. They had to make sure that they weren't out there contracting the coronavirus. And a lot of that had to do with staying at home and staying in the bubble, where stuff was limited as it is to what you could do.
Yeah, they definitely should have gave them more of a break. And I think a lot of people, were before the postseason started, saw a lot of people saying Brooklyn out of the East, and a lot of people saying Lakers out of the West. Lakers aren't even in it more, and 2 of their 3 are on Brooklyn are banged up. I think whoever wins the finals this year is more than likely not going to be the best team in the NBA. It's going to be the healthiest team at this point in time.
Yeah, definitely the luckiest, because whoever wins the NBA Finals this year definitely had a few things go their way in terms of the injuries. Because I mean, of all the teams that are left in the postseason right now, there's not one team that doesn't at least have one key player out right now. I mean, like, sure, the Sixers' only inactive member is Danny Green and everything, but I mean, like, he still provides something to the Sixers, but it's not like to the extent of losing Joel Embiid for an extended period of time. But you look at the Utah Jazz, Donovan Mitchell. I mean, he went have to block a shot, and then all of a sudden he's completely on one leg getting over to the bench. And Chris Paul just mentioned he's going to have to be out indefinitely because of COVID protocol. And there's multiple other injuries. Kawhi Leonard, he's got a knee problem. He'll be out for Game 5, maybe even longer from what they said. Could miss the remainder of the series. So, I mean, now it's up to playoff Paul George to carry the Clippers the rest of the way, if that's the case. So, I mean, it's a lot of bad luck right now in the NBA. And right now, I think the team that's in the best shape is still Phoenix, because, I mean, you still have DeAndre Ayton, and Devin Booker is one of the best players on the planet. And he's definitely the best player in the playoffs right now that's not named Kevin Durant. So, I mean, you want my pick right now, I'm still saying the Suns right now to go to the NBA Finals and beat the Jazz in the conference final. That's kind of where I stand.
Yeah, I agree. It is a shame too about Chris Paul being out indefinitely too, because he was a lot of fun watching with that mid-range coming around the screen. Like, seemed like 20 times in a row, and Denver just had no answer for it. And I think my prediction is still Suns out of the West, Sixers out of the East, as long as Embiid can stay healthy and doesn't have more nights like he did in that second half.
It would definitely be interesting between the Sixers and the Nets, because while the Bucks give the Nets the biggest fits in terms of their size and how they play, I feel like the Sixers play a much better defensive game, and that haunts the Nets a little bit. Especially since they're not healthy right now. Who knows with Kyrie Irving where he's going to stand on his ankle by the time the conference finals would start, if the Nets make it out, which I'm sure they should. I mean, it would be a total collapse of the Brooklyn Nets to drop 2 games in a row to lose the series. But who knows with Kyrie? I mean, that ankle looked nasty when he rolled up on it, when Giannis kind of went under him a little bit after that layup. I don't think it was dirty. It was just kind of an unfortunate play when it happened. There's just little you can do about it. I mean, it's impossible to judge when you're looking up at the ball and your feet at the same time and worrying about the guy next to you. And that is not Giannis at all. He is not a dirty player. I think it was just a total unfortunate circumstance. That's neither here nor there. But Kyrie is a big injury problem, because Harden right now, he's still not 100%. And who knows if he ever will be. Hamstrings are very tricky. I mean, Harden was out there last night, but who knows in Game 6 if it flares up again and Harden's out for another 2 weeks. There's a lot of things that aren't playing to the favor of the favorites to go to the NBA Finals right now. The Nets are relying heavy on Kevin Durant. Can Durant take the Nets to the NBA Finals? Sure he can. He is that talented. But can he and will he is a whole different story. Does he have the talent to take them there? Absolutely. But when you're facing a team that has Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and a heavily defensive scheme that has 3 players in the all defensive teams, and the Sixers have 1 player in each of the 3 all NBA defensive teams: Matisse Thybulle, Ben Simmons, and Joel Embiid. That's going to make life very hard for Kevin Durant to at least pull up on the elbow. Now, no one's going to stop that man once he pulls up from 3. I mean, he's freaking 7'1" and shooting a 3 ball. I mean, he's easily, and they don't call him the Slim Reaper for nothing. The dude's just an absolute monster. No one's blocking his shot. You can just at least make it a little more difficult than the Bucks are making it right now.
Gotta stop you there. Durant is a snake. Slim Reaper is Devontae Smith. Nice jersey.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think the thing that does help the Sixers a lot in that series is having those 3 defensive players, because what hurts Brooklyn a lot is, I think more than likely at this point, there's not going to be a whole lot of games in that series as long as we get there, and it is Philly versus Brooklyn. There's not going to be a whole lot of games where all 3 of them are going to be playing to see in the regular season and the playoffs. So it's using Kyrie as an example. If Kyrie's out, okay, then you put Simmons on Durant. He's going to do as good of a job as anybody can. You put Thybulle on Harden, and then, that should at least slow them down. I'm sorry, but Blake Griffin has, as long as he's healthy, Blake Griffin has no chance of slowing down Joel Embiid. So it's no chance.
Yeah, Brooklyn definitely has a lot going for them, because they at least have the ability to sub out Blake Griffin for that of a DeAndre Jordan, get at least a bigger presence in there. Sure, I mean, you could take on the same Monta as Washington did with Ben Simmons, and just instead of hack a Ben, you can hack a Jordan, and put his like 20% free throw percentage to the line and send him there all game. See how Brooklyn likes that.
Yep, exactly. I hate hack a Ben so much.
I hate it too, but sooner or later there has to be a time for Ben Simmons to hit his freaking 3 free throws, dude. Getting paid $177 million in that contract and just shy of $30 million a year, and you're only hitting 60% from the line. To me, that's unacceptable.
Yeah, I was saying during this last game, while I was watching Simmons just miss free throw after free throw, we've gotten to this point where, like, we're in the second round of the playoffs, looking like we, knock on wood, but we should win the series. We can get that far with Simmons, shooting 60%. Yep. We can get that far with him doing that. But if we really want to, play Brooklyn and beat Brooklyn, and then go to the finals and beat a red hot Phoenix Suns or a Utah Jazz, he has to hit them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see there any way of us truly beating out Brooklyn and Phoenix if they're constantly hacking a Ben and he's missing all of them. Mm-hmm. He's gonna have to start making them if we want to go all the way.
Yeah, that's the no excuse part that I have for Ben Simmons, because I mean, like, Ben Simmons is what he is. Like, he's never going to be the 25-30 point per game scorer that he was like perceived to be coming out of college, where he's like, oh, he's a jump shot away from being LeBron. That's never going to be Ben Simmons. Okay. Ben Simmons is always going to be that, like, flirting around 17, 18 points a game throughout the series, but he's a threat to get a triple double every single night. And that's who Ben Simmons is. Now, he can be that Ben Simmons, and I'd be perfectly okay with that, but just hit around like maybe 70, 75% of your free throws. At least get better there. I don't need you to go like 4 for 4 from the 3-point line, or like, hell, I don't even need you to like go like 8 for 8 from the free throw stripe. Just go 6 for 8, or like just like a miss or two a game. Because I mean, with that big body and you're driving to the lane, you're gonna go to the free throw line a lot more often than not.
Yeah. As we have a hot take to make about Ben Simmons.
Uh-oh, hot take of the day already?
So Ben Simmons is player A. Player B, similar size, similar athleticism, similar play style. Neither of them can make a free throw to save their life. Both of them can't make a jump shot to save their life. Although player B thinks he can make a jump shot, so he constantly jets it up, but constantly misses, almost costing his team games at sometimes. I feel like Giannis is such a more aggressive Ben Simmons. That's it. If Ben Simmons
Ouch.
drove to the hoop like Giannis did, I think he could put up points like Giannis. But I don't see Giannis really that much better than Ben Simmons. What does he do much better?
I mean, besides the occasional 3-pointer. I mean,
Yeah,
that's I mean, like it's no disrespect to Giannis. I mean, he's a back-to-back MVP for a reason and everything. I just feel like both years he won MVP, the MVP class was a little weak. Like it wasn't like Steph Curry and LeBron being at their best in the years they took the awards. But I'm still taking Giannis over Ben right now, simply just because like if we had Joel Embiid and Giannis on the team, I feel like we would have like taken the Atlanta Hawks out by now. You know, I just feel like that physical specimen of Giannis and still being able to pull up from three on occasion. Like you said, not hitting him a lot, sometimes costing his team the games because he'll shoot him out the game if he feels like he'll hit the shots. Because, I mean, greatness is achieved by trying, you know? Ben Simmons doesn't try to hit from three, you know? And I know I just said, like, I don't need him to shoot threes, okay? But I would much rather have a Giannis shooting threes and maybe he'll hit 2 or 3 a game and they can be big buckets rather than Ben Simmons having an off night and he only shoots the basketball like 8 times. You know what I mean?
yeah. Don't get me wrong. Giannis is a very talented player, and like you said, he is a back-to-back MVP. But I was just thinking, like, he just constantly, watching the Bucks in these playoffs. He just constantly, throws up shots that you're like, why are you shooting that? And to be honest, like, I'm sure if Simmons, if they both shot the ball the same amount of times, I really don't think it would be super far off, like how many go in. But like I just think Giannis and Simmons are a lot closer than people think, seeing how a lot of people are like huge Giannis fans and back-to-back MVP, and Simmons, wasn't even on that top 5 list of under players in the NBA under 25. That was on ESPN the other day.
Like, yeah, we all saw that. A lot of that just has to do with the fact that, I mean, you look at the players that are still under 25 now. I mean, you got players like Luka Doncic and Trae Young, who is a scoring machine. I don't think it was more so of a disrespect to Ben Simmons, more so than just the excitement for the young scorers that the league is starting to get in, like pretty much yearly anymore. Like what used to be a 3-point shooter, like an elite 3-point shooter coming out of like maybe every second or third class, one is coming out every year. Like that's where the game is going. So I don't feel like it was more so of a disrespect to Simmons, more so than with where the game is, they favor to the scorers rather than the facilitators like a Ben Simmons. That's all.
Yeah, makes sense.
But speaking of those all NBA teams and players under 25, we'll start with the all NBA first team. Thomas, you got the list. Read them off.
So we got Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, Giannis. I'm not saying his last name.
Antetokounmpo. I got it.
Yeah. And face puncher Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, his brothers wanted all the smoke during that scuffle last week. Did you see that video of Jokic's brothers like wanting to get on the court to fight?
Yeah.
Oh my god. that was nuts. But either way, I mean, I don't really have any complaints for the All NBA first team. I mean, if I would make any changes, it would be center, Jokic and Embiid. But how can you not have the choice MVP as All NBA first team? That's all. But I would agree with this list. I mean, Steph Curry can't go wrong. I mean, he was on the Golden State Warriors pretty much by himself, alongside with Draymond Green, and he almost was this freaking close to getting Golden State into the postseason. And honestly, I feel like they could have beaten the Suns, at least put up a better fight than the Lakers did. But then you get into Luka. I think he's the best player in the league that's under 25 right now. I mean, I said last week that if you're Dallas, you need to hand that young man a blank check, have him write it out himself, and go to the bank with it and give him his money. I mean, if he wants to make a couple of appearances on Shark Tank with his boss Mark Cuban, to put that in there. Why not? I mean, but then you get into Giannis. That's another easy one there. Overall, I mean, I just like the All NBA first team. I feel like they got this one right. The other years it can be controversial, but with the type of year that we had and who was hot for longer and who was the most exciting players to watch, I think they got the NBA first team right.
Yeah, so do I. Still would have took Embiid over Jokic, but that's a whole nother story. And I would have liked to see Damian Lillard on the first team too. But
it's just hard to overtake Curry and Doncic this year.
Yeah, so I can see why they didn't. Just to the second team, we had Damian Lillard, Chris Paul, LeBron James, Julius Randle, and then Joel Embiid. And that I pretty much agree with too. Chris Paul.
It's a good thing they're going off a regular season and not postseason. Otherwise, Julius Randle wouldn't have made it.
Yep. Yeah, Paul, Lillard, and Embiid, I definitely agree with. Randle, probably just because I watched him mainly in the playoffs and didn't see much from him. I don't know if I would have gone.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of next game here.
And to be honest, I know he got on there just because his name's LeBron. But I just don't know if, I guess LeBron had a better year than some of the people on Team 3, but I don't know if LeBron, I guess LeBron did enough to be on Team 2. So.
It's the name. Yeah, I mean, sooner or later, these All NBA teams, they do favor to the name. And LeBron did miss a lot of time, but in the time that he did play, he did have the Lakers as the number one team in the West leading up to his ankle injury. And as soon as they lost Anthony Davis, then it was all over for the Lakers. It was all she wrote. But I mean, all second team, you got to give it to LeBron James, one of the greatest of all time. You can't not have him on either the first team or the second team. Because I mean, even without Anthony Davis, he did everything possible to try to get the Lakers onto the next round. It would have been over then, but LeBron did everything he humanly could on that ankle that was easily maybe only around 60, 70%, because he was still hobbling a little bit.
Yep. So then we got Team 3. We had Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, Jimmy Butler, Paul George, and Rudy Gobert. Can't really argue with that either. Irving and Beal had great seasons. Butler and George, I'd say, had pretty good seasons too. And I think Gobert is definitely the third best center after Embiid and Jokic.
Pretty disrespectful for me. There's two players in the NBA that I would have liked on that third team ahead of Paul George. And that's either Jason Tatum or Paul George's teammate, Kawhi Leonard. Both players, I think, do so much more for the team than Paul George. I know right now with Kawhi hurt, we're really getting ready to see if Paul George can carry the load with the Clippers and at least get them up in the series, and then maybe Kawhi can return to maybe finish it off and then go on from there. But I mean, Jason Tatum was screwed, man. To not put that young man on either one of the three teams is really disrespectful. I mean, I know that, Kyrie belongs there. Bradley Beal belongs there. Who were the others after the small forward position?
Jimmy Butler, Paul George, Rudy Gobert.
See, Rudy does not belong on an all-NBA team. He belongs on the all-NBA defense team, but not overall. Rudy Gobert has no offensive game. Literally, all Rudy Gobert does is play defense. And that's all. He does not belong on that prestige of a team. That's just my hot take. I don't like Rudy Gobert. I feel like he gets away with a lot of fouls simply just because he's able to hide it because he's so gosh darn big. He's so big and lengthy. He's like a snake. He's like an anaconda. But I would have easily taken, if I had the choice of the two, I definitely would have taken Jason Tatum over Paul George. I mean, because it's really tough to choose one or the other when you're talking about teammates. So I'm not going to go there. So I'm going to say Jason Tatum was really screwed. I would have taken him over Paul George. I feel like Jason Tatum really showed you what he was all about when he lost Jaylen Brown and was still able to beat the Nets pretty much by himself in that one game. Sure, it was only one game, but I mean, he did it by himself, man. And to me, that at least warranted getting an honor like an all-NBA team.
Yeah, I'm not a big Jason Tatum fan just because, solely because I hate the Boston Celtics.
I was gonna say, don't hate Jason Tatum just because we took Markelle Fultz now. Like, come
on. And I remember saying before I think after game 1 of Brooklyn Boston, Tatum needs to step it up, drop 50, and win a game, and then he did.
And
it did earn a lot of respect for me, for him. I agree. I think he could have made All-NBA third team. Happy he didn't, but he probably should have. Another one, I understand why he didn't make it, because I don't think you can pretty much not be an all-star and make an All-NBA team. But would have liked to see Tobias Harris over Paul George. Tobias Harris probably did more for the Sixers this year.
No, keep Tobias Harris under the radar. He's our secret right now. I don't need him getting that All NBA. Then he gets freaking clamped by the rest of the league next year. I don't need that.
That is true, but
let him get the disrespect.
What he's been able to do in these I know it's a regular season award, but what Tobias has been able to do, like his stat line in these playoffs, he's been bringing the heat this year.
Yeah, because I mean, even on Monday's game, I mean, he had a very silent 11 points at the half. And they showed his stat line, it said 11 points and 4 rebounds. I'm like, I didn't say either one of any of those points. Where did they come from?
Seriously.
But then you get into the all defense teams. Now, this is where I would have put Rudy Gobert, but he's in there, I'm sure, right? Rudy Gobert.
Yep.
He's probably first team, right?
Yeah, I think he is first team. I did not write down actually the first team, but Ben Simmons was on first team. Then we had Matisse Thybulle on all defensive second team, and then
it actually shows that he's getting a lot of respect from the league, and well warranted. He works his freaking butt off to work on his defensive game, and even if it is second team, I know the first team is definitely the goal, and maybe in the future he gets that honor. But right now, second year in the league, and he's still just coming off the bench, and he wins. Or not wins, he's awarded NBA second team all defense. That's got to mean a lot.
Absolutely. Just the fact that he's a bench player, doesn't see a ton of minutes, and can come in for just a couple minutes, get a couple steals, get a couple blocks, go back out. And he's still very young, and we're still developing him. When he keeps developing and getting even better, and then we see him actually start for us in the future and actually, become a star he probably is going to become. I think we're definitely going to see him on All-NBA defensive first team for many years to come and votes for Defensive Player of the Year multiple times.
Yeah, I hope it's still with us in the
future.
Because, I mean, you never know if the Sixers want to make a push for a superstar. Matisse is going to be especially now that he got that All-NBA second team. I feel like if the Sixers want to land a superstar this offseason. Not a superstar, but someone to like kind of like take their scoring to the next level. The Sixers are going to kind of play that card a little bit. Like teams are going to want that of a Tyrese Maxey because of his scoring potential, but the Sixers are going to put up that frame like, hey, this guy won second team all defense. What about him? And they'll be like, oh yeah, like, and then they'll.
Oh yeah, we can put him in our lineup, and we might be one of the worst defensive teams in the league. We put him in, we get a whole lot better.
Right, exactly.
Especially
like that's why
his ability to guard like shooting guards, and he can even guard point guards and probably even small forwards
because he's tall enough.
Yeah, but primarily that guard position, you're not winning anything in the NBA with letting guards to run all over you, because there's so many good ones. Like looking at the all NBA teams, first team Steph, Luka, and you got Paul Lillard and Irving Bill. Irving Bill is the worst group out of that. And Kyrie Irving and Bradley Beal are insanely talented players. And then there's, I don't even know how many guards in the league that you could argue to put on third team. Like, and so what Thibault would be able to do for a team if he was able to start for them and to, go up against Kyrie one night, then Steph the next, then Luka the next, then whoever next. Like
Matisse
super valuable.
Like Matisse definitely improved his. I don't want him to be traded, but he definitely improved his trades. But he definitely improved his trade stock for if the Sixers want to do something, because the Sixers could talk to, like, just speaking on like teams that have players that like I want for the Sixers, calling up Toronto, like, okay, like we want Lowry. Here's Matisse. If he develops a 3-point shot, he'll be the best like 3-and-D player in the league, like, and then like talk to Portland about Lillard, like, again, here's Matisse. Here's a former first round pick in Furkan Korkmaz. He can get hot. He's still developing, and here's a boatload of picks. Like you have that card to play now with Matisse Thybulle. Not saying that Matisse is the drawing factor to a trade. It would definitely be all those picks that gets the job done in a Lillard trade. But you definitely, instead of trading like 4 first-round picks, you get that down to 3 because of having Matisse Thybulle in that package, because he has that ability where it's like, you talk to Portland, it's like, hey, like I see you have Robert Covington over there. He's a 3-and-D player, but like he's getting up there a little bit, and he was bricking all sorts of shots when he was trying to keep you guys alive in the playoffs. Now here's Matisse Thybulle. He's about like freaking 9 years younger than Robert Covington, and he's still developing a 3-point shot. And if he gets that, he'll be better than Robert Covington. And Covington is easily still one of the best 3-and-D players in the league. So like imagine having, Robert Covington playing the 3 in Portland and Matisse Thybulle playing the 2, and those 2 players coming off the bench for Portland, and then they get all those picks. That would be something that Portland would listen to.
Yeah, I definitely don't want them to trade him away, because I think he is going to develop.
He's a big piece for the long run for the Sixers.
Yeah,
if the Sixers want to develop and do this the right way, like, because when you trade for that of a Kyle Lowry or Damian Lillard, you have to be this close. You have to be that one player away. Are the Sixers that one sole player away? Maybe, maybe not. You never know. Because if you make a trade for one of those guys, it's going to cost you your bench. And it's going to cost you a lot of picks. You don't get to make a pick that year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's really going to depend on, what Daryl Morey and Elton Brand, what their philosophy is on it. But I think if we don't trade him, I could really see it going either way, because I think Seth Curry and Danny Green, there's its role players, rotational. We can ideally, develop Tyrese Maxey and Matisse Thybulle. So then, when we're done with those role players, we start Maxey and Thybulle, and they can be, potential stars for us. Maybe, maybe it lines up where Embiid's starting to get older, and now we have Maxey and Thybulle coming up. But then I can see it from the hey, we got super teams like Brooklyn who have Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant. If we want to compete with that, we can't just compete with Embiid and Simmons. We need Embiid, Simmons, and Bradley Beal or whoever it might be. So
Mhm. Yeah, that's definitely what the Sixers need. I'm just worried that the Sixers aren't just that one player away. That's all. If
yeah,
me personally, I would like one of those players, but I would also like to still do this the right way and still
thanks.
see what you have in Matisse Thybulle, Tyrese Maxey, and all of those picks still on the table. Maybe you find another diamond in the rough to take you to that next level when Brooklyn is no longer a problem, you know? Because right now, Brooklyn's going to be the problem for the next like 2-3 years. I'm not 100% sure what all their contracts look like. I know KD and Kyrie are the ones that are actually signed with Brooklyn, but I'm not 100% sure where Harden stands on his contract. I think he's also on a 2-year deal, like what's left on his contract, I believe. So I think Kyrie and KD still have 3 years left on their deal, and Harden still has 2. I believe. If anyone in the comments section wants to correct me on that, please do. It would definitely help out a lot in terms of the retrospect, in terms of talking this over. But I would rather have the Sixers do it the right way and still develop these guys over time, because the great part about the Sixers is that they still have nothing but time. You know, Embiid is still 27 years old. You know, like I know that his knees and his injuries are the concern right now, but Embiid still has his youth. Like this is the first year that he officially put it all together. You know, think about that. This is the first year that Joel Embiid really came out and assorted his dominance as a top 3 center in the NBA. And he's only 27. It's not like it took until he was 30 to figure that out. And Simmons, you know, I won't say he's still developing. You know, he's pretty much a finished product at this point, but he can still improve. You have an improving Ben Simmons. Then you have Tobias Harris, who all of a sudden under Doc Rivers, it's like he's a completely different player. Now there's history there from when Tobias used to play for the Clippers and Doc Rivers was still the coach there. That's mainly what this came into. Tobias did not vote well with Brett Brown. It clearly shows. But then you still have Tyrese Maxey, you still have Matisse Thybulle, and you still have all those future picks to use. Granted, they're not the Sam Hinkie picks, like using like pick swaps to get into the top 5, top 3, whatever. Those years are long gone for the Sixers. It's now up to the scouting department and player development to get you to that point. But if Daryl Morey is the man in charge, I have nothing but confidence in the fact that the Sixers will do the right thing and do this the right way, because it's not like Brooklyn has those big 3 and those guys are in their 20s like ours are.
Yeah,
That's where
exactly.
that's where I think the Sixers have the biggest advantage of anyone in the East. Is the Sixers are extremely young with their core, and even younger with their players that have a ton of potential.
Yeah, I like that for the Sixers too, the youth. And I think about it too, rarely in pretty much any sport, you have a brand new coach, brand new, president of operations come in and they immediately,
First year, 1 seed. Yeah.
first year, 1 seed, you know, gentleman sweep Washington and, going to Atlanta.
I hate that
But
term so much, gentleman sweep. That
just,
gets on my nerves.
but like, you got to remember this year, like, it's the first year Doc Rivers is in that building. It's the first year that,
First year with no
yep,
training or
yeah,
organized team workouts. Think about that too.
yeah. And I was thinking that when I was watching the Suns series, and I said something about it last week with Monty. I think it was last week with Monty Williams. First year, he definitely did a good enough job. They got down to that bubble. He kind of used that as a team building thing. And then the second year, he was really able to, have his culture in place. And I think Chris Paul was even talking about what Monty Williams was able to like bring to Phoenix, or what he was able to do to turn around the culture and everything. Doc Rivers, he didn't have that. Oh, we need a bubble to, build the team. First year, right away, number 1 seed, and doing what we're doing. If he can, like Monty Williams made a big jump from year 1 to year 2. If Doc Rivers even makes a small jump, like a minuscule jump from year 1 to year 2, we're going to be watching some good basketball in Philly for these next couple of years.
Oh yeah, because I think the Sixers took on so well. Like, because I know I just said, like, well, think about like this, like they had like no organized team workouts, no training camp, no nothing. I think a lot of the Sixers' success this year just comes with the amount of respect that's in the front office. You know, Daryl Morey came in as president of basketball operations, but it's not like he kicked Elton Brand to the side and said, like, this is my team now. Like, no, that's a front office that's working together. And they saw that Doc Rivers got let go by Los Angeles. They all got together and said, hey, like, Doc Rivers is available. Like, he's a well-respected coach. Players play for him. And Doc Rivers was the Sixers coach like a day and a half later. Like, he flew in for an interview at like freaking 10 o'clock the next day after he was fired and like got the job the next day. Like, that's where I think the Sixers' success mainly came from, is the amount of respect that they all have for each other. And going back to like trade talks, is that I feel like if the Sixers did feel that they were this close, they would have made that trade for Kyle Lowry or someone at the deadline. I feel like the Sixers' plan is still to build, because they realized that they were this good under this first year with no time to organize this team that was completely reshaped, by the way. This team is not the same team as last year. It's not like Doc Rivers like saved the Sixers or something. No, like Daryl Morey stripped it down, built it back up, and Doc Rivers coached it to perfection. This was all new, and I feel like if the Sixers felt like they were that close, they would have made that trade. So I feel like the Sixers are definitely bought in to their future. If the offer is there and the opportunity is there, and one of those players says like, yeah, I'd like to play for Philly, then you pick up the phone, but don't make a push when you don't have to.
Yeah, I definitely think, I'm not certain on how our cap situation is, but I definitely feel like you can definitely see Doc Rivers and Daryl Morey working real well together, with everybody existing there. I think not only that, but our style of play too, with Ben Simmons being able to find somebody if they're open, and our offense works well when it's going through Embiid as well. I definitely feel like it's going to be an attractive spot for free agents too. Like they're going to
Philadelphia
see.
is still a big market. Like they still get attention. Like it's not like we're the Indiana Pacers, and like the Pacers have to rely on building their team, because no free agents is looking at like Indiana like, ooh, like no.
Yeah, I definitely think we could, like, if there's a good free agent out there that's like, Philly, there. I mean, what don't we have? As long as we have money. I don't know about that. But like, as long as like we're gonna win, I'm gonna have fun. Simmons is gonna find me open. Embiid doesn't really seem like the kind of guy. Like some stories, you can tell they're like, I need the ball in my hands all game. I want to take the shot when I want to take the shot. Embiid doesn't seem like that type of guy. Embiid kind of seems like whenever the ball comes my way, I'll put up some points. Other than that, let's win this game.
We've never seen Embiid like clapping his hands like 100 times asking for the ball on the court. That's not who he is. Embiid, when he gets the ball, then he's all business. But he's not one to like shout for the ball, like, give me the ball. Like, that's not him. The Sixers cap space, again, I could be wrong on this, but like we're not tight on money, but we don't have the ability to go out and get the top free agent either. We're kind of in the line of, me personally, I would love to like sign Dwight Howard back on like a minimum little like 2-year deal. Keep him for where the Sixers' main title run is still like wide open, because I love Dwight Howard for this team. I love him coming off the bench and providing that energy for the crowd, especially if the Sixers are going to try to ride out the Wells Fargo Center with competing for the 1 seed, 2 seed, 3, whatever. You need that energy coming off the bench, because once those starters come out and they have a little bit of a struggle coming off the floor, you need that momentum boost. And Dwight Howard always provides that. He's freaking Superman, getting those little putback dunks and everything. That's what you need. I would love a little 2-year deal for Dwight Howard. He loves this city. He embraced it from the time that he got here. I mean, he's the Frosty man, for crying out loud. I mean, he loves those Frosties just as much as the fans do, and that's pretty impossible to do.
Yeah, I know he's not like Dwight Howard of old, but whenever we signed him, I was ecstatic. One of my favorite signings of all time because back in like the Sixers, like Drew Holiday and Evan Turner and Thaddeus. Yeah, back in that era, I watched a lot of basketball, like way more than I do now. Like regular season, all 82 games, I was pretty much watching it. And at that time, Dwight Howard was down in Orlando, killing it, being Superman. And he was one of my absolutely, like, probably my favorite player that wasn't on the Sixers. So the year that Dwight Howard wanted out of Orlando, I was, a big basketball fan and everything. And my parents realized that I was a big basketball fan, so they got me tickets to go see 76ers versus the Magic. And I was like, oh, perfect. I get to see the Sixers play, and I get to see Dwight Howard. It was so long ago, I don't remember the exact outcome of the game or anything. But I remember we walked to we took our time and we walked to a bar that was down the street or something. And we got in and everybody was buzzing. And we're like, why is everybody buzzing like this? And we looked up and it was the game that after the game, Dwight Howard had told Stan Van Gundy that he wanted out of Orlando. And
he was already in Philly.
Yeah.
Just keep me here.
Yep. So I was like, man, I want him to come to Philly so bad. And then, he went to LA. But I finally got my wish. So many years later, I finally got Dwight Howard in Philly.
Yeah, if we get Dwight Howard on a little 2-year deal, I might invest in a Dwight Howard jersey because I just love seeing him play. And I love seeing that number 39 on the Sixers. He's just such a nasty player. He's that type of player where it's like you love him on your team, but God, you hate him when you're facing him because he's on the bench, he's jawing at everyone. You're like, shut up, Dwight. But when he's on your team, he's like, yeah, Dwight, tell him.
Yeah, he needs to cut his hair though, because I heard something the other day and I cannot unsee it. His hair looks like a whole bunch of Burger King chicken fries coming off of his head.
Oh no.
You can't unsee that now.
Oh no. Poor Dwight. I mean, to be fair, those spikes look like they could hurt someone.
They do.
I mean, he trips and runs into a player, then all of a sudden he's getting charged for second-degree murder.
Yeah, right.
But predictions, Thomas, before we head on out of here, what do you got for these series then? Because by the time that we record next Wednesday, these series could be done.
Yep. All right. Well, we're still on track for my prediction last week. I said last week it was going to be Philly in 7. It was going to be, we had already split the games in Philly. I said we're going to split the games in Atlanta, which we did. So now we're still on track. I say we win tonight in Philly. Let's go with a final score of 110 to 104. Going to be a close one. Then we go to Atlanta. We lose that. We lose it on a last-second Trae Young shot.
Don't do that to me.
Yep, it's happening. And then Game 7, sold out Wells Fargo Center. We crush them, and we go to Brooklyn.
I hear you. I'm still just saying Sixers in 6, though, because if the Sixers take care of business tonight, I feel like they should. My score prediction, I'm going to go Sixers 119 to Atlanta's 101. I feel like the Sixers definitely dropped the ball on Monday against Atlanta with a real chance to move on to the next round, what would have been tonight. I feel like the Sixers are going to play really pissed off tonight, and they're really going to if Trae Young is going to be looking for contact, they're going to make him feel it because unlike being in Atlanta, you're going to have that Philadelphia crowd giving it right back to Trey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If there's a time to get nasty, it's now. Because then if you crush Atlanta tonight and you go down to the A, down there to face the Hawks again, you're public enemy number one. And that's how Joel Embiid likes it. I mean, I know on Monday he was kind of his own demise and everything, but how often do you really see that from Joel Embiid more than one game? You know, if Joel Embiid goes down there again with a chance to put away Atlanta, he remembers what happened a couple years ago against Kawhi Leonard and the Toronto Raptors. He is not going to want to have that happen again. He does not want to see another Game 7 and experience that again. He's going to want to go down to Atlanta and finish them off and then go up against Brooklyn and on from there.
Yep.
Sixers in 6. I feel like they blow out the Hawks tonight and then win a very close one in Atlanta by like maybe 2 or 3 points.
Yep. And we've already seen it twice. One was unsuccessful when Philly was trying to do it, and then one was successful when Atlanta was trying to do it. I guarantee you one of these next 2 to 3 games, whatever it is, we're going to have either Atlanta or Philly up by 20, and that's not the team that wins.
Well, anymore, like I'm a big hockey fan. Like where do you stand on hockey? Because then we can talk about that like as we get to the Stanley Cup Finals here shortly.
I haven't been watching a lot of this year's playoffs yet, just because of NBA playoffs and work and everything. But I always do watch the Stanley Cup and usually conference finals.
Okay. Well, if there's anyone that isn't familiar with hockey, okay, the best term in hockey is that a 2-goal lead in hockey is the worst lead to have because then you get complacent and then all of a sudden you're only up by 1 and then that team that was once down by 2 is going to make that final push to get that one back and then they end up beating you. I forget who it was. It wasn't here in the playoffs. It was a home announcer. I believe it was the Charlotte Hornets announcer. That I love that announcer, dude. He's so extra. I don't know if you've ever heard him, but like he just loves his job. But he went on to say that a 20-point lead in today's NBA is a lot like a 2-goal lead in hockey. It is never safe because in the type of era that we're in with 3-point shooting and where you have big men that can shoot the 3 now, that 20-point lead gone in like 10 minutes. Like, I know that when you see your team up 20, you're like, oh, this thing's in the bag. But like to anyone watching, if your team is ever up by 20, don't think that you got in the bag. Because that's what I was thinking on Monday, and Sixers ended up letting us all down. So, So that's my advice to all you guys as we close out the show. If you see your basketball team up by 20, whether your team is in the playoffs or going into next year, don't assume that it's over because it's a lot like a 2-goal lead in hockey. That thing will demise in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, but just real quick, no offense to the Hornets announcer. I don't think I've ever heard him. But Mark Zumoff and Allah, you're the best.
Garbage in the gold.
Locking all windows and doors.
In no particular hurry.
All right. I think that just about wraps up this week. As always, trust the process. Kevin, you got anything?
Just trust the process. I hope you all have a good remainder of the week. To all the fathers out there, I want to wish you all a happy Father's Day. And go Sixers.
Yep, go Sixers. And with the football training camp starting back up and stuff, we will be talking more about football too in these next couple weeks. So make sure you stay tuned, and then we'll obviously keep talking about the playoffs as they keep going on for the NBA.
All right, everybody. Have a good day, and we'll see you next week.